I'd like to start with a seed that is also a poem that is the kernel of the project I'm here to share with you today. The poem is titled A Corner to Love, and it goes like this. Maps of the city number in the thousands, unique and folded in each citizen's heart. We live in the city, and the city lives in us. Before I tell you more about the project, however, I have a story to share. I was 14 years old when my family fled war. El Salvador of the 1980s was a turbulent place. In March of 1980, Monsignor Romero, Archbishop of El Salvador and defender of human rights, was assassinated while officiating Mass. In December of the same year, 3 American Maryknoll nuns and a lay worker were killed in the outskirts of the country's airport. No one was safe. Thousands of civilians were killed in the countryside and in cities. My family escaped in the early morning hours of January 17th, 1981. We carried with us 4 small suitcases and a box with books. We left behind our grandparents, our extended family, friends, neighbors, also our dog, Monina, and an orange tabby named Frederick. From one moment to the next, we lost everything that gave meaning and purpose to our lives. Our house, our country, customs, language, song, music, dance, food, everything that is embedded in place and gave us a sense of who we were in the world. Now, the story of my family of escaping war and arriving in a new place is like thousands of other immigrant stories. Stories of grit and gratitude, of love, courage, and determination. Slowly, with time, and with the help of others, we found the way back into ourselves. We became members of new communities. We learned to appreciate and even love new landscapes. We held on to our language and our traditions while learning a new language and new traditions. It was a struggle, but eventually we found new ground under our feet. Decades later, I became a poet and a writer. I was named the first Civic Poet of the city of Seattle, and later the 5th Poet Laureate of Washington State. In these roles, I saw myself as a catalyst for poetic expression in others. I believe with all my heart that poetry belongs to everyone and that we can all write poems. We all have stories to tell, and we are all able to feel deeply. And that is how every poem begins. Because I am someone who was once displaced and lost a sense of belonging, I value the placidness of life, and I center it in my work and in my writing. Place is like air, indispensable to our being. We don't often think about it because everything we do is tethered to it. We work, we dream, we play, we pray in place. Our being, even language, is inescapable from geography. Another way to think about this is to ask the question, what is home? What is a place where you belong in all the ways in which you are? Let's take a minute to think about that. You could maybe close your eyes if you want to. What does home mean to you? Is home a structure? Is it a city? Is home the people we love and who love us back? Can home be a language? Is home your mother's lasagna or your sister's carrot cake, maybe? Can home be a body? As the civic poet, I wanted Seattleites to speak of the place they call home. And to do this, I designed and taught a series of poetry writing workshops throughout the city with the help of the public library. People wrote poems about belonging and alienation. They wrote poems about their fears and hopes, about their loves and desires. Some people also wrote critical poems about the city. I collected these poems, and they became the central piece to a digital interactive map I called Seattle Poetic Grid. My thinking was that there's all kinds of grids in the city: street grids, telephone grids, Wi-Fi grids. Why not have a grid that explored the soul of the city, the emotional tenor of the city? This map exists as a website. It is called Seattle Poetic Grid, and you could find it at seattlepoeticgrid.com. And when you go to it, you find this, a map of Seattle with blue dots scattered all over it. When you click on each of these dots, a window pops open that reveals a poem and a photograph that has been written about the very place where the dot is located. We could check a few of them out. If we go to downtown, for instance, we'll find Elena Camarillo's poem about the Central Library, and Lina Khalaf-Tufaha's poem, Orange Blossom. If we go to the north end, to Ballard, we'll see Rihanna Smith's poem, The Waiting Woman, at Ballard High School. And if you go down south to Franklin High, you'll find Amanda Vo's poem titled Home. If you return to downtown, you'll find the poem that started it all, the poem I opened up with, A Corner to Love. I wanted, with these poems, to provide a space for us to encounter ourselves in ways in which we may normally not do. And as you notice, some of these poems are written in languages other than English and have been left untranslated. These poems are a kind of a bridge to connect us to each other. The poems were written by a variety of Seattle residents, school-age children, high school students, senior citizens, working poets, and poets who, when alive, contributed to the literary scene of the city. There are poems from all of them on the map. There is plenty and varied opportunities for connection. I believe that when we are seen and acknowledged, we correspond naturally. Place is both terrain and the relationships that thrive upon it. Having an awareness of place means that we recognize we are in relationship with other beings with whom we share that place, both human and non-human. And I believe that having this awareness can steer us in the direction of becoming stewards of the places we inhabit. And at this juncture, after 2 years of enduring a worldwide pandemic that has taken the lives of millions and left as many in economic despair, and at this particular historical junction when our human actions have contributed to global warming, then having an awareness of and thinking about the place we call home is crucial. Sometimes we're so locked in to our daily routines that we fail to see that our neighbors' understanding of the same place may be entirely different than our own. We are not alone. Cities are hubs of interdependence and interconnectivity. And what happens to some in one corner of the city will eventually affect us all. I want to share one more poem with you from the grid. This one is located in West Seattle on the Delridge corridor, and it's written by Freda Jaffe. It's a poem of belonging. It is told with great humor and candor, and you could read along with me if you wish. It's titled New Blue Yodel in D minor. Feet on concrete, heading south. After the rain, more rain. Crows on telephone lines sow discontent everywhere they have been discriminated against. D for Delridge, D for don't think twice, D for Delridge, D for demagogue. If this is going nowhere, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I'm heading to the pawn shop where neon lights are blue, heading to the pawn shop where it's 1962, gonna find a ukulele with a nowhere song or two. D for Delridge, D for dollar store, D for Delridge, D for don't spend more. If this is going nowhere, there's nowhere I'd rather be. Sometimes, often, I would say, it happens like that. It's the little things, a bird on a wire or the crooked neon sign outside a mom and pop store that bloom for us and lead us to experience a greater truth, a deep sense of belonging, for instance, or the sense that we are at that moment right where we need to be. My family lost a sense of belonging and a place of belonging due to war. Right now, we are witnessing on our telephone screens in real time the displacement of millions due to war in Ukraine and in other places around the world. But here too, in our own midst, thousands of families and individuals have lost a place to call home. Place doesn't just happen to us. We make place. We are agents in the places we inhabit. And we could be passive or indifferent agents, or we could be agents that advance inclusion and justice. I leave you with a question. In this post-pandemic era, how will you make place for others to belong and thrive? Thank you so much.